Hey, what's going on, guys? It's No Shoes, and welcome back. Today, we're going to be taking a look at DABDA, my first EP, and the creation of it. Because, truly, I made it without a lot of guidance. And I don't think there's many videos, at least any that I've seen, that really dive into what it looks like to actually make your first long-form project. And, I'm the type of person where I learn best from seeing how it's done, listening to people's stories, and just kind of watching over their shoulders. So I hope that I can give y'all some knowledge today. Maybe you like DABDA, maybe you don't. I don't really care. That's not what this is about. I'm certainly no expert. Like I said, this is my first EP, but I'm excited to share the story of how it came to be with y'all. And I hope any artists out there listening that have not created their EP yet, or maybe they're still trying to figure it out after making their first one, might get something out of this. So the first thing I want to talk about is the conception of DABDA. How did that idea come to be? Where was it that I thought of that? And the truth is that DABDA in name itself did not come to be until very close till the end of its creation. For the majority of the crafting of DABDA, the EP was actually called I've Had Enough. And originally, it wasn't intended to be an EP, it was intended to be a full album. And essentially what I did is my goal was to take basically the summer and spring and craft about 20 beats, and then choose the best 20 beats out of use the best 10 beats out of those 20 to create an album, write the lyrics for those beats and everything like that once I had narrowed it down. As you might realize, that didn't happen. I think I made about 11, maybe 12 beats, and I was running low on time. I was about to start my first semester working on my bachelor's degree in radio and audio, and I realized, let's cut it. We need to start moving on to lyrics, or else I'm not going to have this nearly in the timeline that I wanted. I wanted to have about a year from start to finish to release. So I decided to switch it up, and I shortened the EP. And then it became 5 songs instead of the original 10 like it would have been for an album. But like I said, the working title was I've Had Enough. I spent the summer and the spring just producing a bunch of different beats. The reason for the original title, I've Had Enough with a capitalized ENO, was because I was very and am still very inspired by Brian Eno, and especially his work with ambience. So I interjected his name into the title, and during the production of the beats, I incorporated a lot of ambient sections, whether that was intros, bridges, outros, you name it. I was trying to figure out how to take ambient elements, incorporate them in something musical, and then blend those ambient elements with loop-based hip-hop style production. All the loops are original on DABDA. Pretty much everything is original on DABDA. I didn't use any sampled loops or anything like that. I may have sampled a Creative Commons sound here and there and turned it into an instrument, but that really would be the highest extent of any use of previously created elements and assets in the production. And then, so following that production and following that realization that I could not make the EP into an album, I just didn't have the time in the timeline I wanted to have it out in, I started to do the arrangement of the actual EP itself. What order do the songs come in? What makes sense? And that is where the name DABDA really started to come into play. Because I've Had Enough started out as being kind of like a frustrated, angry at the world type of album, and DABDA came to be out of the stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And while you might experience those stages out of that order, that is the order that the album takes, essentially. Each song being a metaphor or a simile or some type of way to communicate each stage of grief, starting with Round the Rosie for denial, Wrath for anger, Nick McTarman for bargaining. We have Snooze for depression, and then we finally finish with Passing Through for acceptance. But before those songs even had a title, like I said, I had to figure out what order they were gonna come in, which beats made sense for those emotions, for those feelings, for those thoughts. And that's how I went about it. I took my favorite 5 beats that I produced, especially the 5 that fit that energy. I arranged them in one file in a session, so that way I could listen to them all the way through as if it was just an instrumental cut of the album. And I listened to that for a while, and I actually switched out one of the beats at the last minute because I just felt like we could make it better. And so along that process, really around that arrangement time, is when the EP transformed from being I've Had Enough to DABDA. And then, of course, once I had the beats selected, that's when the writing of the lyrics really started. And for my process of writing lyrics, there's actually a good bit that goes into it. I'm not a big believer in moving quick with music. I think time is a flavor. And if that's a video you guys would be interested in hearing me talk about more, please let me know in the comments, because that's something I've thought about. And I would like to share that, especially in this super compressed and just quick moving landscape that we are in now, with everything being digital and such low barrier to entry. But regardless, I did a lot of pre-writing for these tracks, asking myself questions. What is this song? What does denial mean? What does it actually feel like? What does acceptance feel like? What does it look like? What is wrath? How do I want to express anger? Do I want to express anger as a person, or do I want to express anger as God? And there were just a lot of those questions that I answered, and a lot of reading I did. For wrath, as you might guess, I actually read the Bible. For acceptance, I read a lot about like Northern European mystical traditions where they talk about having like parallel worlds and, you know, all these different things. And it all came together to help me research and find what was really at the core of these ideas that I was trying to imbue into these songs. So then, after writing the lyrics, which was a fairly long process, it was over a couple months that I wrote each track, you get to the spitting of them, just actually practicing rapping it. Because, especially for me, after spending months, almost 6 months at this point, producing all of these tracks, I had them memorized. I was a little tired of listening to them for a moment. My ears needed a break. So generally, I kind of wrote the lyrics in a vacuum, where I knew what beat I had it inside my head, and I just wanted to see what I could write without the beat. And that's pretty much how every song went on DABDA. Was I would write it out, then figure out how to spit it, and then figure out if there was anything that needed to be changed. And I'm talking small stuff. You know, maybe those 2 G's back to back as the first syllable of each word, it just sounds messy. Maybe that little transition word is an extra syllable too many, and we need to get rid of it because I could breathe there and make it flow smoother. There's so many different ways you can go about it, and of course it's all going to come down to personal preference. But that was really my process, because I wanted to get up on the mic and spit these tracks as if I had been saying them my whole life, as if it was as natural to me as saying hello, how are you, when, you walk into the gym and see the guy at the front desk. So that's what I did. I practiced and practiced and practiced throughout the whole writing process until eventually I wrote Passing Through, the final track, which I had the least amount of time to work with. And I think, funny enough, at least for me, it turned out my favorite. And I think part of it is due to that rawness that came with it being the last track I wrote in the crunch time that came with that as well. So once I had all of the tracks practiced enough, then it was time to lay them down. So we started in the spring, and now we're at like the beginning of December. And I was very fortunate to have a close friend of mine and a business owner that we are friends with as well allow me access to some vacant space in their business, where I was able to set up a very bare bones vocal recording booth. And I had a little, folding table set up to mix at with my headphones or whatever device I had with me that day. So I set up this vocal booth. There's videos of the process up on the Buy Me a Coffee. If you guys are interested in supporting over there, you can also get access to Discord, updates on content, behind the scenes stuff like for DABDA and a bunch of other great stuff. It really does help support the channel, help support my music. And honestly, it helps buy my time back because, we all gotta get money out of our time or else you're gonna be running around with no food, no clothes, and no roof. And so I appreciate everybody that supports. And if you want to join over there, I really do appreciate y'all as well. But so I set up that vocal booth and I recorded my vocals. There was a decent amount of reverb present in the room, but it ended up being additive. It didn't really ruin the vocals, and it kind of just dissolved into the tracks once I laid the vocals on them. So that really wasn't a problem. Then once I had recorded everything, I had all my layers. I recorded normally I triple up my vocals pretty much everywhere. So on a verse, I'll have 3 layers of vocals generally. On a hook, it might be 5. Sometimes you throw a tiny little ad lib in, like there's a shriek on Nick McTarman that that I did myself or whatever. Just all those little things. I got all of it together. And then I got to the mixing stage. And what I should mention is that the way I did this, and I don't think this is the best way, this is just how I did it, is I mixed the beats first, and then I mixed the vocals on top of the unified beat, the singular 2-track stereo file of each beat, which going forward, I would actually mix the vocal in with all of the track outs of the beat, or the stems at the very least. And if anybody's curious about the difference between track outs and stems and all that stuff, again, let me know. I would love to dive more into this stuff because I feel like a lot of this information can be kind of hard to find. But yeah, I recorded the vocals, I laid them down, we started the mix process, and my process for mixing, especially once we got to the stage with vocals, was first on headphones. I have a pair of AKG K52s. They're awesome headphones. I love them. They're fairly cheap too, and they're pretty clean. They monitor well. So I used the AKGs to get my preliminary mix done. Then my monitors at home that you can't see, but my hands are touching right now, I promise. I checked all the mixes on my monitors. I checked the mixes on my phone for volumes. I checked the mixes on my Reaction headphones, which many of you are familiar with, Sennheiser HD280 Pros. Some really great headphones. A little bit more expensive than the AKGs, but they still work. And also, I think I got this pair of headphones somewhere in the middle there, and they were probably used. These are K92s because I thought I lost my K52s. Regardless, the goal of mixing is translation. So I listened to my music on many, many, many different devices to see how it was reproduced by each of them to make sure that the songs maintained the same character regardless of what I was listening to them on. And that was kind of the mixing process. I'm remiss to say my knowledge of mastering is still fairly amateur, but it was much more amateur at this time. And I did the mastering during the mixing process. My mix levels were way too hot for what you would typically want on a mix, although they weren't peaking or anything. And then I just threw a master preset on the master signal chain and exported through that. And that was the mixing and mastering process pretty much all in one. Ideally, now knowing more, I would separate those two processes. I would bring my mix levels down a bit. And then I would, ideally have somebody else do the master for me. Barring that possibility, I'm just going to wait about a week to do a master, which is actually what I'm doing right now for a new project called Video Ambiences, which is purely instrumental and again, fairly Eno inspired. But that was the mixing process. You check it for translation. You want to see that it sounds nice everywhere you put it. And then during this process as well, the album's really starting to come to fruition now, or the EP, I should say. It was time to get the artwork made. And as some of you might realize, I am not a visual artist. I don't have any desire to be. I don't like looking at things. Put me in a cave, give me a blindfold, let me listen to my music. So I contacted one of my best friends, the guy who got me to start rapping, and an amazing visual artist, Make Ozali, as I found out later. And apparently I was pronouncing it wrong the whole time. But he put the artwork together for me, and we again kept with the Eno inspiration, kept it kind of dark, but added some new, unique elements to also give some of my and some of his flavor to it, with the kind of oddly shaped letters of different sizes on the front cover, kind of, what's the word, like asymmetrically placed, and we went through a couple revisions. We actually had to, generate a new background for it because the original one had an Adobe stock watermark on it, and we weren't going to do that, so we had to figure out how to work around that, and just a bunch of fun things. It was a really great experience. A huge shout out to Make Ozali for working on that for me, and he is actually working on a project called Design Co right now, where they do graphic design, website design, a bunch of crazy stuff. I would love to link that, and if he's okay with it, there will probably be a link in the description of this video. But, so let's take stock here. We've produced all the beats, we've cut down to the good beats, I've written all the lyrics, I've practiced them, I've recorded the lyrics, I've mixed them on the beats, I've checked them on a bunch of different sources, we got the artwork made. What's left? We gotta upload it. It's gotta get out to people somewhere. And mind you, in the process of doing this, I am putting out small promo materials here and there, little clips, little videos, things, small things. I'm not great at promo. That's something that I'd like to get better at, but honestly, I just hate the whole social media game of just feed the algorithm every single day with a bunch of stuff. I'm sick of it, man. I'm sick of it. We people, we need to slow down. We need to put down the phones. We don't need to be continually connected and continually know what's going on. Regardless, I did try to play that game a little bit. And, but in the midst of that, I tried to upload the music to DistroKid, my distributor up until this point. And, it was a horrible experience. DistroKid, absolutely trash. There is no other way to say it. Their customer service is a bunch of AI bots who will send you FAQ sheets that absolutely answer nothing to do with your question, and then they will ask you what's wrong when you're upset. And then finally, after you cancel your account, they will email you saying, "Oh, we're so sorry, we can help now, but I see you canceled." And it's like, bro, it's too little too late. I'm done. I'm sick of it. Y'all suck. So, if you're using DistroKid and you're having a fine experience, fair enough. Use them. Do your thing. Take it as far as you can go. But, I'm telling y'all, you're probably gonna have a problem with them at some point. And let me tell you, it's not gonna be easy to fix. So, that brings me, and I raised my whole discography. I didn't even keep the ID numbers for the songs, y'all. I canceled it all. So then I moved on to United Masters, which is just completely the opposite, dog. It's $20 more a month or a year. $20 more a year. It's $60 a year for their select plan. And bro, it is worth it for the customer service. I had issues with like my music being uploaded to the wrong artist. I emailed United Masters at like 11 p.m. They fixed it before I woke up, bro. Like, United Masters, shout out. This video is not sponsored by anybody. United Masters, if you would like to sponsor, or if you guys would like to sponsor, we're joining the Buy Me a Coffee, like I said, please check it out. But truly, fantastic customer service, great help. And I'll tell you right now, I think they pay more than DistroKid, because, you know, DistroKid, I probably made like $1.17 off of that thing, maybe less. In United Masters, in the past couple months I've had it, I made like $6. And let me tell you, I was on a lot of people's splits on DistroKid. But regardless, I upload to United Masters, DABDA gets released, it finally comes out, and it's awesome, man. It's great. It's finally in a place where I can listen to it as a listener, as the audience. Other people can listen to it. During the process of its creation, I showed it to some close friends to make sure I was on the right track. I took it to an open mic to test it out and see how people felt about it, to see how I felt about it, you know? And it was truly a wonderful experience. It helped me process a lot of my own grief, and it still helps me process my grief when I listen to it, especially when I'm able to take a step back and listen to it more as the audience and rather than the creator. But it was a truly fantastic experience. I feel blessed to be able to do things like this and to have anybody to share it with, much less, you know, the crazy 10,000 of you that have subscribed to this channel for my reactions and everything else over the years. So yeah, it was an awesome time. I hope you guys, if you're out there working on an EP, working on an album, working on a single, or you just want to make music for fun, whatever it is, like, I want to help y'all because, you know, I went back to school to figure out a lot of this, and I still had to put a lot of the pieces together myself. Maybe I could have asked more questions. Maybe I could have looked for more help. Maybe I did look for help and I had trouble finding it. You know, whatever it is, I want to help you guys get to a point where you feel comfortable making your own music the way that I feel comfortable doing it myself. So throw any questions you have in the comments down below. Let me know what you're working on. Join the Discord, join our community of artists, share with us what you've got, man, because we want to show you love. And truly, I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you all again next time. Much love to everybody in the No Shoes gang, and peace out.